How's it going, everybody? Welcome to the channel. This is Big Daddy Dave, and this is a how to care for cows video for Farming Simulator 22. This will show the best practices to make sure that you're getting the most out of all of your cows. Now, in front of me, I have several pastures and barns. Pasture way over in the corner over there, three of the same barns, and then in the background we have a barn with a robot feeder. That'll come in later into the equations, but now let's go ahead and describe what the differences between each one of these pastures and barns. Well, pasture requires water. That's one of the biggest differences between all of these. The barns, all of these will handle water. You don't have to worry about that. The capacities are different, so you'll have different amount of animals that'll fit into the pastures versus the amount that'll fit into these barns here and the barn in the background, and the amount of, or types of outputs that you can get. So here you can have milk. You can also have milk in these. That's fine. But what you will not get is slurry from the pasture. You will get slurry from all the barns as a base. You also have the ability to get manure out of these, but you have to do a little bit of fidgeting to the barns in order to get the manure. So let's go ahead and go to each one of these barns and pastures and add in some animals. So starting with the pasture, I'm going to show that there are actually two different types of cows. There's four breeds, but two different types. So first off, you got the Brown Swiss and the Holsteins. These are your milking cows. They will produce milk as a part of the whole process. So we're going to have the second type, which is your beef cows, Angus and Limousines. The beef cows will not produce milk, but they will increase in value very rapidly to be able to sell on down the line. So in this pasture here, I'm just going to go ahead and put in one Angus cow, and it is an adult. In the next barn, I'm going to put in one Holstein adult. In this one, same thing, one Holstein. This last one is one Holstein. And then in the barn with the automatic feeding robot, we're going to do one Holstein. And there we go. All of them have animals now in all four of the barns and pastures. Let's go to the animal screen and check out what it looks like. So our pasture with the one Angus cow, you'll see now has food, TMR, hay, and grass categories, and a total capacity. The total capacity is the total amount of each one of these individual components that can fit in the barn or pasture as a whole. But each one of these categories will take up a percentage of said total capacity. So you have to come up with a combination of these items that will equal out to 100%, or at least 100%. And as you can see, grass and hay equals out to 80% and 40% respectively. Both of those combined equals out to 120%. It doesn't matter that it's 20% over 100. It just matters that you reach 100%. Or you can have total mixed ration, which is the cow's version of their superfood, which will include all three of these categories, or in this case the one category, at 100%. Now let's go ahead and fill up all of the individual barns and pasture to have all of its individual component needs. So we're going to start out at the pasture first, and the reason we're going to start there, even though we're closer to this barn, is that one's very special, and I'm going to hold that one off to the very end to explain. So again, a pasture requires water and food in order to get a happy and healthy animal. Here, we have water. Oh, and just occurred to me, I was supposed to have at least one more vehicle full of TMR, and I don't have it. So let's go ahead and just add that vehicle in. Okay, so here I have my two main components for the pasture. I have water and I have feed. In this case, I have TMR. So let's go ahead and add these in just really quick. There it goes. And now let's add this in. All right, so if we look at the pasture here in the animals, you'll see that the TMR is filled up, almost 10,000 liters of TMR. 100% is the productivity rate in which they will be able to do their thing. And water is at its maximum capacity. Now, you're not going to see water drop because I left this particular telehandler over the trigger, so it's just going to take from whatever's left in the bladder there and into the water itself, so you won't see that actually decrease. Now, for the second barn here, or the first barn, I should say, we have just grass. So let's go ahead and put that in. And now for the second combination, barn number 2, we have grass and hay. Let's see, we've got this one here is the second, or the first barn, just grass. This one is the second barn, grass and hay. And now the third, this is TMR. There we go. And now we're going to go to this back barn and put in all these individual components. Now, what's so special about this building here is that with this feeding robot at the top of each hour, it will automatically feed your animals for you. All you need to do is have all these individual components. Here you have your mineral feed, silage, straw, and hay. If you have all these filled at the top of the hour, the robot will then make TMR for you and load in TMR. So let's go ahead and add these in. So you can see here we have our mineral feed, and our silage, and one thing I will show you is with the feeding robot, you see none of the capacity for the food is filled out just yet, and that's because you technically haven't fed your cow yet. This is a whole separate capacity, separate from the barn itself. And now we've got all 4 components in here. You got a little bit of hay, a little bit of silage, a little bit of straw, and a little bit of mineral feed. And eventually, at the top of the hour, it'll then feed your cow with some TMR. So let's go ahead and skip to the top of the hour so you can actually see that occur. And we'll look at each one of the individual barns and pasture to see the differences in each one of those as well. So we'll go to 9 o'clock. And there we go. We're at 9 o'clock, actually 9:01. Let's look at the pasture. you can see we put in TMR here and water. The health has gone up 0 milk, which we expect, and productivity 10%. Our cow is valued at $1,061, and we should see it go up from this point on. Now looking at the first barn where we only did grass, you can see health hasn't increased at all. Productivity hasn't increased at all. No milk has been produced, even though this is a Holstein, which is one of our milking breed cows. And the only thing that has moved is slurry, 4 liters of slurry. Looking at the second barn where we did grass and hay, you'll start to see the health has gone up to 3%. Productivity is at 4%. It's slowly starting to go up, but it's not going to be as rapid as the next one, TMR. You see the difference right there? We're at 4% and 3%. Respectively, between productivity and health. Now we're at 8% and 10%. It's a huge, huge difference. Let's skip to the next month and see that difference commence. And I didn't show the feeding mixer, the feeding robot. Well, let's start with the feeding robot, but since I forgot to show that one off. But you'll see now we have 26,000 liters of TMR for your cow. It made all those individual components, turned it into TMR, and now it is just sitting there and feeding and feeding and feeding it. It's doing its job. It's doing exactly what we want it to do, and it's produced 108 liters of milk, 260 liters of slurry. Now let's look at the pasture. Again, no milk's going to be produced, even though if we had milking cows, they would be in there. Again, one of the big differences is that in the pasture, you will not produce slurry or have the ability to even go after manure. Now the next one, just the grass. Now you can see again, no health, no reproduction, only slurry has been affected because we don't have that coveted 100%. We need to at least reach 100% in order to start getting health and productivity and thus producing the product that they're available to make and any slurry and potential manure if you set up the next component. Now again, the cow, the Angus, is worth $2,422. It's gone up almost by double, I think more than double actually. So we're already starting to see a nice chunk back from the purchase or from the original price that we saw. Now we have the second barn, which is the mixture of hay and grass. We have 80% and 40%. Productivity is over 100%. It's exactly where we expect it to be, but its health is only at 75% as compared to the TMR barn where we have 100% health, 100% productivity. Now going back to this, 208 liters of slurry, 63 liters of milk, and no progress on reproduction because we haven't hit 100% of the health yet. But here we have 100% health, 10% of reproduction, 108 liters of milk. So you can see the difference between these two barns are pretty staggering already. And the amount of slurry that's being produced, 208 liters of slurry versus 260. We're starting to see that gap grow. Let's go ahead and skip to the next month. All right, let's start with the feeding robot. Again, we have 26,000 liters of TMR. It's just maintaining the feed in order to keep the animal fed. You have milk at 243 liters and slurry 510. It's continuing to go up because they're happy. They're being fed. Now starting with the pasture. Again, $2,538. It's going up as time's going on. You can see water's going down as we would anticipate eventually because eventually it's going to go through it. Our TMR going down because, again, they're going through it. Productivity is at 100%, but productivity doesn't matter because they're not producing anything. They're not producing milk. Health is where it's important with your beef cows because that's what's going to assess their value. And there you go. They're going to eventually reproduce and eventually going to make babies. Now the first of the barns, again, grass. Just grass. We're not at the 100%. We're only at 40%. Slurry is only at 204. Now if we go to one where there's 100% met between the two products, you can see the difference. Again, no milk, 171 liters of milk. We've met that 100% minimum standard, and slurry is almost double. You can see 204 liters versus 408 liters. 100% health. We finally achieved that 100% health, just like this last barn here, but we're just a step slower than the third barn, which is right here. You can see the differences between these two are pretty vast. You have 171 liters of milk in the grass and hay versus 243 liters of milk. And in the TMR, you have 510 liters of slurry versus 408 in just the grass and hay. And you're also starting to see reproduction here, to where now you're only at 10% for the grass and hay. Here you're at 20%. So you see that there's a nice little advantage by going after that 100% as quickly as possible, because you have that slower kind of spin up time, and you eventually get there, but you're going to have that kind of slower time. Now you're going to have an easier time getting a hold of grass and hay because you don't have to go through as many steps in order to make TMR, or I'm sorry, you're not going through as many steps to make the grass and hay as you are to make the TMR, because in order to make TMR, you need minimum hay and silage. You need at least those two components. You can pad it out by adding in straw and mineral feed, just like the cow barn did, the one with the feeding robot. You know, but you have to have those components, those 4 components, in order to make the feeding robot work. So it's one of those that you can see the already stark difference. Let's go one more month. Again, looking at the Angus, we have 2,538. Let's see. And you know what? One quick thing I want to look at is how much did we pay for that Angus originally? Are we already seeing a profit after, what is it, 2 months, 3 months? So for the Angus adult, we paid $1,675. We're already making a profit right now, only a couple months in with the TMR. Now let's skip ahead one more month and see where we're at, and just see that divide continue to grow. Okay, we're into the new month. Let's check it out one last time. The feeding robot, again, it's maintaining. It's just getting it to where it is going to be at its kind of happy level, and then just going from there. We're seeing milk go up, slurry go up, the whole 9 yards. The pasture, again, $2,653. We're slowly going up as the animals getting bigger and bigger and bigger, older and older, and we're good to go there. They're also getting 30% into reproduction. Once they reach 100%, you'll have another cow. Now again, the grass barn, only with grass, 0 milk. We haven't produced anything in regards to milk, but we have 304 liters of slurry, as opposed to having something with over 100% of our food value. And again, doesn't matter whether it's over 100% or not. It just has to be minimum 100% with the categories filled out. In this case, it's 120, but once you reach that minimum threshold of 100%, it doesn't add value beyond that. As you can see, if it added value, we'd be far more ahead in this barn than we were in this one. But looking at the differences between the grass only and the grass and hay, you can see no milk, 304 liters of slurry, no health, no reproduction, as opposed to 279 liters versus 0 and 608 liters of slurry versus 304. You're almost double. You're actually double of slurry. And again, your reproduction here is 20% versus 0%. I mean, yeah, it's a huge difference. You are getting something. You are getting slurry, just very slowly and very inefficiently. Now, again, the differences between grass and hay, because it takes that spin up time to TMR, is also pretty significant. You're talking milk 279 versus milk here 378, and again a reproduction difference of 10% between grass and hay versus TMR, and our slurry 608 for grass and hay versus 760 for slurry. And so far, we haven't even discussed the whole manure possibility. All these barns, these three in the front and the feeding robot there in the back, have the ability to create manure. In order to create manure, you have to do two things. One, you have to have straw, and two, you have to have a manure heap. Now, specifically a manure heap extension. Now, I'm going to take this particular telehandler here, and I'm going to go get straw, and then bring it back to this barn here. Actually, no, not this barn, the middle barn. That's where we're going to take it to. No? Yes, the middle barn is fine. Sorry, I'm thinking out loud here. Alright, so we want... There we go. Oh. There we go. I don't know why I didn't fill it up like I anticipated it to. Alright, so we're going to take this straw and we're going to load that middle barn, which is the grass and hay combination. Now, you can load it where those two machines are, but you also have a secondary option, I believe, which is right back here. This middle door, if we open that up, bring this to here, I believe. Whoa, yeehaw. Oh, you saw it started to go down. It's just because of the way that this particular delivery system is shaped. Typically, you can just dump right into here. Alright, so we completed one step here. You can see here in the bottom right-hand corner, straw, 10,000 liters. And if we go to this one here, straw, 10,000 liters. It's almost half full. Now we need the second component, which is the extension. Now, there is a difference between a silo and extension. A silo is where you can actually just go and store your manure, but it will not generate the manure. Now, if I go out to here and you can see, I can place this wherever I want. Does not matter. But if I go into silo extensions and look for the manure heap extension, you'll see a manure heap needs to be placed next to a barn. Well, what I want is it to be close to this barn. If I put it too far away and put it to this barn, it's going to pick up manure for this one, but we didn't put any straw in here. We only put straw here. Now, we could theoretically have this overlap into multiple barns if it's close enough. So I could, if I had straw in here, actually straw in here, I could pull manure from this barn and this barn here. But because we only put in manure or put in straw for this particular barn, I'm going to place it right here in the back. And now I'm going to skip one day, or in game 1 month. And we'll come back in December. All right, let's take one last look at the different barns and pasture. Again, total food for the cow with feeding robot, cow barn with feeding robot, it's staying the same. It's about halfway full. We're pretty good to go there. Reproduction 40%, productivity 100%, milk 513 liters, slurry 1010. Our Angus is now up to 2,769. That's doing pretty good. We're seeing the feed go down. We're seeing the water go down. Productivity is at 100%, even though we're not producing anything because it's a beef cattle, not a milk cow. And we're good to go here. It's just continuing to gain value. Now, our first barn with grass and with just grass, again, we're not going to see any health. We're not going to see any reproduction. We're not going to see production. We're only going to see slurry, 404 liters, compared to 808, where we have something that's meeting that 100% criteria. 399 liters of milk. We have the straw that went down. Reproduction is at 30%, so on and so forth. And then lastly, milk, 513. This is the TMR one. slurry 1010, just like the cow barn with feeding robot, and reproduction's at 40% as opposed to 30%. Now, because we added straw here, we should see manure as part of the byproduct. We come over here, we'll see manure 159 liters, and it is appearing there. And that is pretty much it. I mean, that's the best scenario that you can come up with for taking care of your cows is going right to TMR. That's the best scenario. TMR here, TMR in the back, because you're basically just having it mixed for you. That's the best way to do it. You can get away with it with doing grass and hay, but it just takes that one extra month to kind of spin it up to full speed. But once you're there, you're good to go. I hope you enjoyed this video. If you did, please show me by liking, sharing, subscribing, following, commenting, doing all the things the algorithm enjoy you doing. That shows you're engaged with this channel and enjoying the content. And that being said, I hope you have a fantastic day. Take care.